Hello and welcome to this special reading for the Scorpio full moon that is happening today as I upload this on May 18th of 2019. The full moon will be exact at 5:11 tonight Eastern Time. So we go the deepest we can possibly go when we're talking about Scorpio. It is the deepest of the water signs. It seeks for the truth within all of us. It has a no bullshit filter that is so pristine, so strong, so clear, so unwavering. And with that, it brings a certain level of intensity. That's what I feel with the Scorpio energy. And it's kind of a, if I had to equate it to some words, it would be, it's time to get real. Cut the bullshit. Those kinds of things. It can be very stark. Now that's not to say Scorpio energy is one of the water signs and therefore deeply emotional. It has an emotional intelligence to it that is bare and raw and not afraid of vulnerability. But it wants everybody to be in on the vulnerability. Let's all open our hearts up together. That's the feeling of it. And so when we have the moon, which is the emotional, it represents the emotional part of who we are. It's our feminine nature. It is like the chalice within us that gets filled up by life. And honestly, that cup can get so full that it is overflowing to the point that it topples over. And I almost feel like that's what this Scorpio full moon is about, because the full moon is the culmination of the cycle. Talk about intensity. It is when the moon is at her most intense. And really the cycle of the moon will not be complete until she goes back to the next new moon phase. And so this is a deep one, folks. But what I felt called to do for this particular reading is, of course, to look at the Sabian symbol for the full moon. And your choices for this reading are going to be 2 planets and the minor planet / asteroid that we know as Chiron, because I'm choosing these celestial energies because they're making a certain aspect, meaning they have a certain angle to this full moon in Scorpio. Now before I get to the symbol, and I also want to read to you my channeled writing that came through actually before I get to the symbol, but as I was walking up to this spot where I do my recordings, I happened to find this little piece of bark. And it just speaks to me. My eyes immediately zeroed in on it. And for anybody looking to develop their intuitive nature, being in touch with something bigger than yourself, bigger than your mind, you really need to pay attention to what you pay attention to. You need to notice what you notice. And my eyes just zoomed in on this piece of bark. And we have lots of branches and acorns that are scattered on our backyard right now, leaves, everything. It's really beautiful seeing everything come up fresh. But this piece of bark really got me, and it's got something to say about this full moon in Scorpio. And I'm hoping you can see it's just this perfect little hole within this piece of bark. And I can honestly say that I've never seen this before, and I suppose it's not that remarkable, but there's something about it. And that's the energy of Scorpio. Scorpio goes into the wormhole. Scorpio is unafraid to go down deep. And notice just how little it is. And that's going to be important for the symbology. Okay? And for what came through in my channeled writing. And I did the channeled writing before I looked at the Sabian symbol. Okay, so you'll see they kind of fit together, of course, because that's how spirit works. Everything's together. But we're going into this wormhole, but it's magical. It invites us. And really, it's a call to let go of your fear, and it's calling us to do something very specific. okay? So, I'm going to read to you my channeled writing that I did, all right? This applies for everybody listening to this reading, having to do with this full moon in Scorpio and what the meaning of this is. A depth of emotional fortitude coming into being. There is a cleanup here, like little fairies with brooms and blower packs, like the ones on your back, tidying up your emotional stockpile. A clean out is necessary, and nothing does it quite like a Scorpio moon. New, more authentic truth comes forward after the culmination of this cycle. You really can be all that you set out to be. That is real. But leaving story, or at least seeing it for what it is of supreme importance. There can be nothing like now, the clarity of a blue sky, an adventurer in a plane flying across it to a new destination. This is truth-telling time, bare bones clarity, and releasing all the storied past that has built up. And absolutely, I was seeing, it was an image from my favorite childhood book called The Magic Key. And it's little fairies that are preparing for the summer solstice celebration. And I feel that that's coming up for a reason, because at the time of the summer solstice, which is June 21st, is when we're going to feel some kind of culmination around this theme. And it's in preparation. We're doing a cleanup on purpose. So these planets that you're going to be choosing are what the message that wants to come through about the aspect of cleanup for you. Our Sabian symbol for this new moon is Scorpio 28. And 2 plus 8 is 10, and in numerology that reduces to 1. This is a new beginning emotionally. And really the keynote out of that channeled reading that I got, we have to let go of the story. Our mind, our ego loves the friggin' stories. It loves making up lots of complexity, lots of layers, lots of meaning. And some of that can make us feel really alive, but I'm telling you, there's probably a good 80, 85, even 90% of that story mess, like a rat's nest, that is not helpful to us. It doesn't illuminate us. It doesn't cause us to be more. It causes us to question ourselves, to feel guilty, to feel disempowered, to feel like we're not good enough, feel like we haven't achieved enough. And I'm not blaming the ego here, but I'm just, because the ego does this to keep us safe, but it loves to put bounds around things. And what you're going to see with all 3 Sabian symbols for the planet choices have to do with lack of bounds. And that's, Scorpio loves to go out of bounds. It does not want to follow somebody's rules. It wants its own truth, and it wants that for everybody. So it's letting go of these old stories, the storied past. So this new beginning, the 1 energy, Scorpio 28, the king of the fairies approaching his domain. Here we are, going down through this little magical entryway that is very natural. It's very real. It's very much a part of the roots of who we all are. We are here on the earth, and this little piece of earth from a rooted structure in our living space, the trees, is giving us this entry point. The king of the fairies. This is about you taking charge of the domain that is you, and letting go of the stories that other people have put in your mind, that you have put in your mind. It's a wake-up call. Like I said, Scorpio's like, let's get our shit together. Enough of this. You just have to keep it real. What about right here, right now? How are you doing? What do you want? What are you focused on? What is it that you're paying attention to? What's grabbing your attention, and go towards that. Light yourself up, not bury yourself in these stories and lack of empowerment. Okay? And you can hear the energy of Scorpio gets very intense, and I can hear it in my delivery of this. So I know I'm right there with Scorpio. But this is about you owning your domain with this full moon. And again, it's around emotional, the emotional domain of your life. And are you letting the stories of everything take you away? And can you see that those stories act like very heavy, wet, sometimes downright stinky, moldy blankets on top of you that just keep being added and added and added? It's time to shake those off and become king of your own fairyland, this emotional domain that Scorpio is part of and goes deeper than any other water sign. And it's the emotional realm. That's what water represents. So, your 3 choices were at the beginning of this video. So the first one is what is astrologers call an opposition, and I call it an alignment. I see it as a good thing. The moon is standing across the way, directly across the way from Mercury, if you chose this symbol. This is Mercury. This is the planet about the mind. This is about our cognition. This is about that story-making machine that is up here. And then when the heart gets involved, it's like that's the ultimate investment in the story. So the symbol for Mercury in this alignment with the moon in Scorpio is Taurus 25, a vast public park. So here we're mixing the energy of Taurus, which carries a 7 energy. 2 + 5 is the symbol. And that is about truth seeker, being a contemplative truth seeker and really waking up with new eyes. And Taurus, your true nature, simplicity, clarity, things like that little piece of bark. Noticing what's around you, noticing the gems of your life. This is all Taurus energy. It's very pure beauty in your life. And this is what Mercury wants to help you with. In aligning with the moon, I see that as beneficial for all of us. Because guess who's in the middle of that opposition, as astrologers love to call it? And I do get a little feisty about that from my perspective. You are the one in the middle. You got Mercury on one side of you and the moon on the other side, and you are the magnet that draws them together. You are the alchemy pot. It's like this amazing magical pot that you bring together the energy of the moon in Scorpio and Mercury in Taurus, and you create gold. Alchemy is known as making gold and silver and all of these treasures. You're the one making that happen. So if you chose Mercury, this is your chance to use the power of Mercury to own your emotional domain, to quit the shit and drop the stories and allow your Mercury, your mind, your cognition. That's where we create the stories, because we want to put meaning around things, because when we have meaning, we feel safe. That's just how it works. That's how it is. And I'm not trying to demonize our mind, our ego structure. It's there for a reason. But it does get overwhelmed. Like I said in the intro, the cup overfloweth to the point of just falling over. And then there's nothing left to fill because there's no cup. That's where this culmination point is. It's very intense. So what I feel for you is, it's this, and I see an alignment, aka opposition, as the most powerful aspect in a chart. I really look at this when I look at an astrological chart, because it's the energy of the bridge builder. It is the energy of a weaver. You're not happy with just working with one energy. You're the culmination of two energies put together. And in this case, we've got Scorpio and Taurus, which are naturally part of the same thread. They're two ends of this thread. And so, again, owning the king of the fairies approaching his domain. This is you looking at the king of the fairies, the little things in life. Those little stories that turn into really big stories. They become the story of your life. And how we love to wax poetic about what has come and what has been and why we are who we are. This Mercury in Taurus is a vast public park. You have more available to you than that. Let it go. Well, even if it's good stuff, that's what I'm hearing. Even the good stuff, because you're kind of missing the point on like, but what about right here? The bird screaming in the sky when I was channeling the message, the written message, the plane going across right at the right moment as it said to me, the adventurer in the sky headed to a new destination. This is about vastness and how you can notice little things in life, like the piece of bark I showed, like the plane, like the bird screaming during your part of the reading. The little things in our life, those are the elements of the stories going forward, and they're naturally built. This is Taurus, Mercury in Taurus. This is about natural elements of your life. And that you have a vast array, a vast public park. So much is open to you for you to exercise your mind in. Because when I think about the vast public park, I think about people walking, they're communing with nature, they're communing with one another. They're not in front of their devices, they're not holed up in front of their computer trying to work away at something. They're communing with nature and one another and their own bodies, if they're jogging or walking. This is the stuff of your new stories. So the vastness is coming up for you, and that you can open your mind and thereby letting that old storied past head on out, because the king of the fairies is here, the king of the fairies within you. You are the king approaching this new domain, and the fairies focus on the little things. They focus on the dew drops in the morning. They use it to clean and cleanse the world that we wake up to every day. They create magical spaces and ley lines within the earth that bring tremendous experiences for us, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. So it's like believing in the magic again. And letting go of these old, tired stories. They're just tired. Okay? The second choice is my favorite when I'm doing an astrological chart. Thus, I save it for last when you have a birth chart review for me, which is Chiron. And this is known as a kind of minor planet to some people, and then others call it an asteroid. And it's part of its enigma. But Chiron has always been known as the wounded healer. Chiron has recently made its transit into Aries, the very beginning of the zodiac. And it takes about 70 years for it to get through the whole astrological cycle. So, for most of us, we will only experience one Chiron return, Chiron returning to the spot where it is in your chart. And I love Chiron because I think it isn't about being the wounded healer anymore. It's about seeing the storied past that I've been talking about, seeing that as your power, seeing it as, and it always in an astrological chart, it is the key to your greatest gift. That's why it looks like a key. It is a magical key to what unlocks dramatic potential in your life. And it does have to do with a massive level of rub of some sort in your life. It has to do with the challenges that you've faced mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. Maybe more than one of those. Because with the challenge is where we rise above, is where we find a way, we burrow through and find a path anyway, because we have the will to live, we have a will to survive, we have a will to thrive. And as humans, the one thing I know is that we are here to expand. We're not happy staying in the same cycle over and over for the entirety of our lives. At some point, we all break out of that because we want more for ourselves. We've felt a sense of accomplishment, and now we're ready to move on to more. So the conversation, the energy that is shared between the moon, the Scorpio full moon, and Chiron, who's showing you your power, your magical key, is called a trine. And in a chart, it's represented by this blue triangle. And that is energy that it wants your attention with this full moon, because this is very natural energy for you. Trine energy is easy, but part of the problem is it just flows under the surface, and we have to bring our attention to it to use it, because otherwise it just flows and we're not getting the potential out of it. It really is kind of a gift to have trine energy in your chart. So what Chiron is saying is at Aries 5, and 5 energy in numerology is about being the freedom-loving adventurer, like that from the intro, like the plane that was going across the sky, about adventuring to a new destination. That part of that reading at the beginning is tied into you here. And this says, Aries 5 reads, a triangle with wings. So now you've got the 3 energy mixed in with it. This is about your creativity being your key to freedom, being your key to a dawning of a new day. And it's really, I'm getting a sense, I'm seeing feet coming up out of muck. And honestly, trine energy sometimes can feel a little bit like muck, because it's sort of like what I was saying about we're just like really, really good at that energy, but it wants to be renewed. It wants to be refreshed. I'm feeling like the feet are coming up out of the mud, and you're ready for something new. You're ready for new adventure. And it's an adventure having to do with creativity for you. That 3 of the triangle, and really allowing yourself to be, there's a new authenticity, because the full moon in Scorpio is, if nothing else, it is boldly, very wide open hearted, like slay me open kind of authentic. Okay? And this again is about, the call I feel for you is to look at the little things, the king of the fairies approaching his domain. Look at the little things that have caught your fascination lately. And this could be about these old stories in your life, and just notice, like, because remember, we're always evolving, and that's what Chiron's focused on, is your power as you evolve out of a new cycle, out of a cycle and into a new one. Have you, any of these stories of the past, have you noticed little things about them that are kind of like a new, like, And if you haven't, the call is to start looking at that, to be the freedom-loving adventurer, to give your mind enough space to open into more opportunities. But you have to get creative with your perspective, and to allow yourself to feel the freedom of getting to choose how you look at things, how you choose to feel and act as a result of those things. All of that is a choice. And that's part of the power of Chiron also, is the fact that it is always a choice. We could choose to be called the wounded healer and to stay in the wound. And that energy, we all know that energy. When you keep talking about the wound, guess what? The wound never heals. But if you talk about the power that you got after, perhaps you broke something in your hand, and then you had it fixed, you went to physical therapy, and you worked those muscles and the joints, and it's like better than it's ever been because you had to work it. So I feel like, again, the focus here is on little things, creativity, freedom. Those are keynotes for you with this full moon. So trying to see that those rub moments, which Chiron loves to bring up, they are not your wounds. Wounds are where we create these stories like the wet, heavy blankets that keep being put on us. And who's putting them on us? We are. We put them on ourselves because, if only my ex hadn't have done that and they never listened to me. And, no, your ex is causing you to be more because you're ready to be more. And you're going to be. And it's like an upward, I feel this sense of not only the feet coming up out of the muck, but you're looking up and you're just like, it's time for me to focus in a new direction. It's time to let all of that go and to just notice that you can change your perspective based on noticing, where is my attention focused? Am I focused on the wound, or am I focused on the empowerment that I now have as a result of that wounding? And to say, yep, thank goodness I had that, because I know what I'm capable of now. It's a very different perspective. And I just feel this shift, a shift in your focus. Okay, the last planetary energy that you get to choose from is this glyph, which is Pluto. All right, and Pluto with this full moon is making a sextile, is what it's called. This is a really nice energy in the chart because it's unlike a trine energy, which we just talked about with Chiron, the second choice. Sextile energy has the same feeling as a trine. It's lovely. They kind of zing together, whatever planet it's aligning with. But we have more of an awareness of it. And so we put a little skin in the game with a sextile. Like, we know we're drawn to something, so we bring a little bit of the masculine energy to help us really make that part of our lives have that zing. We know we have it there and we use it. Okay? That's the energy of a sextile. So Pluto is sextiling this Scorpio full moon. And Pluto right now is in Capricorn, which is an earth sign, and it's the top of the earth game, if you will. It's the last of the earth signs. It's very driven on achievement and focus and diligence. And it kind of loves the rules and playing by the rules of the game. But just think drive, That's what I think about when I think about Capricorn. And it has a serious nature to it that I think makes this a really nice, not only because it's sextile, these two, but Pluto rules Scorpio, okay, where this full moon is. And so there's a natural, again, zing that comes with that. And there is a level of not only intensity that I feel, but also the power and the focus and the drive. And the other word I want for you is serious. Okay? So again, the full moon symbol is the king of the fairies approaching his domain. The Pluto symbol is Capricorn 23. 2 plus 3 is 5, and in numerology, that's the freedom-loving adventurer. That's breaking out of the bounds and moving on to something new. Literally, like, purposely upsetting the balance, and nobody does that better. Pluto's pretty darn good. Pluto is like death and rebirth. It's like the phoenix rising from the ashes. It is a major transformation kind of energy. So this feels really big for you if you chose Pluto. This full moon is power-packed here. And Capricorn 23 reads, a soldier receiving 2 awards for bravery in combat. The war is over. That's what I heard very clearly. The war is over, and you're receiving 2 awards because 2 is about, it's a time to reflect with this full moon on the fact that you're able to walk in a place of duality with a new sense of emotional understanding and understanding the power of the transformation that you have undergone based on the war that you have lived through. And this could be something very recent, or I do feel like some of these karmic ties to things like our birth family, very difficult relationships, because again, this is an emotional moon in Scorpio, and this is something that is a driving tie. I really almost feel like you have finished a karmic contract of some sort. And this can also be from prior lifetimes even, because Scorpio does go just that deep. And so does Pluto. Pluto is the ruler of all of that karmic connection. And I'm not personally a believer in that you come back here to resolve karma, but I do think we like exploring some of those same themes, and we try on different glasses, if you will, to take a look at through different perspectives, because who you are in this life, me as Kat, is very different from who I have been in prior lifetimes, and in fact quite opposite to what I have been in prior lifetimes. That's what the north and south nodes of the moon in a chart indicate. So is how opposite you have been versus who you are now. So I feel for you, the war is over. And how about taking on that mindset? I'm coming home, I'm getting my awards, and that part of my life is done. And this is, again, tied to dropping the story. That's what the Scorpio full moon is really about. And the king of the fairies approaching his domain. This is about tiny new starts, and that you're the king of that. You are the CEO of You Inc. You get to choose. And what the invitation is, because Scorpio loves truth, Scorpio loves getting to the rock bottom, talk about like going underneath the roots even. Scorpio wants to get to the absolute beginning of something. And so to do that, that can feel overwhelming. If you consider this is a really, really new day. It is the snake's shedding its skin. And when you start a new chapter, and we really make this happen through our cognition, okay? You say the war is over, and now it's time for me to start the next chapter of my life. You have to start small, because that is really overwhelming. You're just like, oh my God, I could go in this direction or that direction, or whoa, what? Because all of a sudden you realize that when a karmic connection is completed, and this could be with a spouse, this could be with another partner, it could be with a family member, a friend, work situations, home life in general, things like the energy with money. It's the root of anything that makes you feel stable in your life. When we're considering all the options, it's just such a sense of vulnerability, because you don't know who to be without that other energy that you could always kind of, if you will, grind against. You could always blame it on, that, or I'm just horrible with money, or, there's always a blame game. That's all story, which is what this full moon is bringing up. We have to look at with starting small and taking baby steps to come into a new energy. Because when a karmic tie of sorts, whether it's to money or a person or a situation, or even our own past lives and patterns we've had, when that contract, I prefer to call it complete versus cut, but it's the same kind of concept. The point is, it's no longer there. It's done. That's your symbol. You're done. You've learned what you needed to learn from the duality, the 2 awards that you're getting. You know now how you need to balance that based on everything you've been through. And so, starting anew with this fresh pair of glasses on, you have to start small. Consider yourself the king of the fairies emotionally, approaching your domain. And what is this new relationship with X, whatever it is, a person, a place, an experience, yourself, parts of your own life? It's you and another energy that you're resetting here. It's not even resetting. You're totally like the soldier coming home from the war. You're done with that. It's over. And that's Scorpio energy too. This is done. Enough. Now it's time to stand the cup, the chalice back up, and allow it to be filled again. But what you fill it with is likely going to be very different, because a soldier is not going to have his days filled with what it once was. And that's a difficult transition. I'm not saying this is easy, and Pluto doesn't make things easy on purpose, because it's renewal, it's rebirth. It is a big transition time. But my suggestion is, however this relates to you, because this is a general reading, just start small. The king of the fairies approaching his domain. You're starting, oh, I lost here's my little piece of bark that I was talking about in the beginning. There's your little hole, that's your entry point. The snake has shed its skin and it's going to move on through here. You're approaching your new domain. And the thing is, you get to set the rules. And much of those rules that you will be setting up are based on everything that you have learned as a result of that war, these stories that you have been through and I feel are now ending. They're done. Okay? Big one, folks, really big one. If you'd like to have a personal reading with me and have me take a look at your astrology, or a card reading, or an in-person session, you can see my options. I have a whole treasure trove of goodies over at bluesky-shop, shoppe.com. Have a wonderful Scorpio full moon. Intense, but so worth it. Bye-bye for now.